Story 1. Why are you so quiet? Because I only speak when I know something, and I'm so goddamn dumb. Story 2. Why don't you have kids? Maybe I don't want them. Maybe I'm infertile. Regardless, it's none of your fucking business. Story 3. When you are a man in love with a man, people assume it is normal to ask whether you are a top or a bottom, and it makes me feel insane. Story 4. People ask what is wrong with you when you are visibly disabled. It is one thing if we are friends, but the number of complete strangers who ask similar questions and act entitled to your medical history is shocking. Story 5. What is wrong with you or what happened to you? I use a wheelchair because of various issues linked to a genetic connective tissue disorder. It does not have an easy explanation, and people get uncomfortable if I just say I was born. Story 6. People keep asking when we will have children and saying time is running out. My new approach is to look them in the eye and tell them about my miscarriage last year, since they are so invested in my reproductive health. For example, someone mentioned I was pregnant, and my husband said, "We had a miscarriage." The man walked away and said nothing else. Story 7. How much do you weigh? I am fat. Story 8. Asking people who have twins. Are they natural? Like, yes, we had sex, or no, they were made in a dish. Fuck off. Story 9. Why are you so thin? People often follow that with the phrase, "Tell me your secret." I have a chronic eating disorder that is slowly ruining my physical and mental health. I am not going to tell you how to get into that. Please do not comment on my body. Story 10. Where is your man? They are asking to gauge their next move. I answered that I am my man. Story 11. Where are you from? This is often asked after I tell people my name, which is Arabic in origin. My white mother named me after watching Lawrence of Arabia. I always reply, Pennsylvania. When they ask, what is your ethnicity? I say, American. Eventually, once they squirm enough, I say, are you really asking why I'm brown? Story 12. Why are you limping? How did you hurt yourself? I had a massive stroke 22 years ago. Yes, I am mostly okay. But thank you for your concern. I know I was young. It is not fair and you may not know what to say. I do not care anymore. I have processed it and am grateful for it. My life would not be nearly as amazing without it. Story 13. Why aren't you working right now? How many jobs have you applied to? Why do you dress like that? When are you having kids? Story 14. Do not ask questions or make comments about my scars. Do not imply I am seeking attention or flaunting them just because I do not go out of my way to cover them. It is none of your business when, why, or how. Story 15. You know it is not safe for you to travel alone as a woman. Why do you not take someone with you? Story 16. I am a covered Muslim woman, and you would not believe how many people have asked me whether my husband has seen my hair. He has. Also, no, I do not shower with my scarf on. I put on a shower scarf. Story 17. When I dated a wonderful person who used a wheelchair, I was horrified that the first question every one of my friends asked me was about his genitals. We need to be better. Story 18. How much weight have you lost? My in-laws will not stop commenting on how round I was at my wedding and how much better I look now. It is as if they are saying mean things about me just because that was who I was in the past. Story 19. When someone says they have post-traumatic stress disorder and another person asks from what, as if they want to dive into that with a complete stranger. Story 20. Where are you from? They are always very disappointed when I tell them I am from the exotic land of Connecticut because what they really mean is, why are you brown? Story 21. When I tell someone I am colorblind, they ask, oh, what color is this? And point to a random object. Story 22. Why were you not here? Were you sick? What is the matter? When you miss a day of work. Story 23. Have you lost weight? Even if I have EFF off. It's not your business. Story 24. Why can't you speak properly? I have a stutter. Get over it. Often it is the laughter or the strange looks that accompany it that hurt more. My stutter worsens when I get angry. Story 25. How is your mother? Knowing that she has advanced dementia, she is not fucking good and never will be. Stop asking. Story 26. Do you have children? How many? I am childless not by choice. I am okay talking about it now, but it was very intrusive when I was undergoing fertility treatments and when I finally realized it would never happen for me. Story 27. Are you trying? For kids. It is basically asking if you are having unprotected sex with your wife, which is highly inappropriate. B. We just had a miscarriage is an answer that makes the asker feel awkward. I am not sugarcoating my life. If you ask a question, you will always get a real answer. Do not try to make me feel bad because it is not the answer you expected. Story 28. Strangely, it's a question my husband and I never get asked. We have two severely disabled adult daughters. They are 21 and 23. They have never spoken, wear diapers, and are essentially toddlers with seizures in adult bodies. These details are for context. Being lifelong caregivers is very lonely. Family and friends have stepped away, perhaps because they do not know what to say or fear making us sad. Our address and phone number have been the same for nearly 20 years. Family asks our aging parents how our daughters and we are doing. 1. We have not spoken to them in years. 2. We feel abandoned by people we were close to before we had children. 3. Our aging parents no longer need to be the go-between. My husband and I discuss how to respond if relatives suddenly reach out after our parents pass. Do they feel like they have been talking to us? I do not even know what they look like now, and they live nearby. Story 29. Have you lost weight? Can be a passive-aggressive way of calling you fat. Story 30. Is that your natural hair color? I have no qualms about dyeing my hair. And when people compliment it, I always say, thanks, it came in a box. But for some reason, when people, especially strangers, ask that question out of the blue, it is really off-putting. Story 31. Where did you go to college? It may seem innocuous, but for someone who did not attend college, the question brings up insecurities about my lack of formal education. That said, I hold a high position at my company and earn a six-figure salary. Personality, reliability, and hard work got me where I am today. Story 32. I'm on maternity leave and have had multiple people ask if I'm planning to return to work. What the fuck? I have a degree in laboratory science that I worked my ass off to earn. Would you even be asking me that question if I were a man? Story 33. How are you? Why are you asking if you are unwilling to listen to someone who is not okay? Story 34. My age, how many children I have, what I earn, and who I live with. Story 35. For context, my husband and I are in our mid-50s with successful careers and are financially independent. My in-laws are comfortable asking questions about our finances. My husband used to answer those questions until he married me. I had to teach him that I do not discuss my finances with anyone who does not have a stake in the situation. When we bought a house, his mother did everything she could to find out what we paid for it. That was not her business. Last week, his brother asked at a family dinner how much we are paying to buy my husband a year of retirement, since he is a teacher. Sometimes I suspect my husband caves and gives them this information when I am not around. Story 36. When a cashier asks what you are doing with your purchase, I understand your job sucks and you're bored, but it's none of your damn business. Story 37. Have you lost weight? Or do you have any questions about body weight? Story 38. In Northern Ireland, the question, what school did you go to, is often a way of asking whether someone is Catholic or Protestant, unless you know the person well. Story 39. What the fuck am I supposed to say to that? Do you want me to trauma dump? Or explain the science behind bad brain chemistry? Story 40. I am not trying to be rude, but I am tired of answering. I have been with my girlfriend for over 14 years. People ask, when are you going to get married? Wait for the save the date announcement. Story 41. Is that really your name? Yes, it fucking is. Just because you personally have never heard it, or because you have hang-ups about what people with a certain name should look or sound like, it does not mean it is not my name. It is so annoying that I have considered changing it, but I was born in a country where name changes are not possible. You cannot legally change any part of your name. Now I live in a country where I can change both my first name and surname easily at a local office, But that would leave me with two different identities in two different countries, so no. Thanks, Mom. Story 42. How old are you? Unless you are my doctor, why do you need to know? Laughing out loud. Story 43. How old are you? Feels like a challenge or something. Story 44. I know someone who can't seem to resist commenting on my appearance whenever we interact. They ask questions like, why are you wearing your hair like that today? Why are you wearing makeup? Did you change your hair color? Why are you so dressed up today? I find it increasingly exasperating. Story 45. Do you have a family? Yes. I have a family I love dearly. Parents, siblings, nephews, aunts, uncles, and cousins. If you mean a spouse and children, no. That remains the most painful failure of my life. My household also includes rescue snakes. Would you like to see them? You may already regret starting this conversation. Story 46. So you live by yourself? I'm a younger woman, and this immediately makes me uncomfortable. Story 47. The question, how old are you, has been the talk of the office all week. Who cares? Story 48. So, are you a man or a woman? That is not an appropriate way to ask and is almost never appropriate. Why are you so quiet? I am neurodivergent. Is that why you do X, Y, and Z? People ask this when they find out I am neurodivergent. Do you hear voices? People ask this when they find out I have schizophrenia. Why are you wearing that? What the heck? Why do you like that? Because I can. Will you draw something for free? No. What's your real job? Art is my job. So, are you gay or straight? People ask this when they learn I have a transgender girlfriend. Why are you in a relationship? Do you have sex? Do you masturbate? How do you know? These invasive questions come up when people find out I am asexual. Story 49. What do you do for work? People ask this within moments of meeting during the first conversation. I don't know why, but I would rather get to know someone for everything they are outside of their chosen profession. I personally never think to ask that question because I don't care and don't think it matters. Story 50. Back in 1980, I was an apprentice at a large engineering firm. There were about 4 of us in our 20s, a manager in his 30s, and an older man who was kind of odd. The manager's wife had just given birth to their first child, so he was all smiles. We congratulated him and asked the usual questions. Are the mother and baby doing okay? Have you thought of a name yet? Then the older man asked something that made us all look at each other. Did he just say that? He asked, will she be breastfeeding him? What the actual fuck? Story 51. Are you a boy or a girl? A man or a woman? Excuse me, stranger. Why do my genitals bother you so much? Story 52. What happened to your arms? I was a cutter in my teens. I am in my 40s now, and my arms are pretty gnarly. I hate this question. If I make up a story, people usually respond, no, you did that to yourself. As if they already knew what happened and just asked to be cruel. At least now I am more confident. I laugh it off and say, that's a rude thing to ask someone. Story 53. What do you do for a living? It is essentially an attempt to ask what you earn or to determine whether you are better or worse than someone else. Story 54. Have you considered in vitro fertilization after months or years of infertility or miscarriage? Story 55. Me. Oh yeah, my son is disabled, but he really likes them. Oh, what's wrong with him? Like Jesus, for crying out loud. There are more tactful ways to ask that, and I don't owe you his diagnosis anyway. Story 56. Why do you not have children yet? People usually follow this with some version of saying that you are getting older and running out of time. Story 57. Have you lost weight? That confirmation that someone is analyzing your body never makes me feel good. Leave me alone. It's not a compliment. Story 58. Why do you bring so much food for lunch? To be honest, it was a really big salad. Why is the size of my lunch your concern, Vanessa? Story 59. I don't expect anyone to agree, but I don't like when people ask what I do for work or tell me what they do. It's not interesting. I think it's a bad question in general. Tell me what excites you. Story 60. Asking someone who is trans if they have had surgery is often one of the first questions. Would you ever ask a man how large his penis is, or a woman whether her pubic area is shaved? Story 61. Can I ask you a question? No. Ask me a question first, please. Can I talk to you about something? Dealing with scam texters is enough to make me instantly feel a cold run down my spine. It also means I am not going to like the conversation that follows. Story 62. What are you? I am biracial and my features are nebulous. Story 63. What do you believe happens when you die? I find that question far too personal coming from a casual person. Story 64. Did you do something new with your hair? I have curly hair, and it just falls differently every time or I wear it differently. But why, for goodness sake, is there so much attention on it? Leave me alone. Story 65. I am middle-aged now. After having only one child during my childbearing years, no specific reason, I felt complete and did not try for more. People asked questions that were none of their business. Why did you not give her a sibling? Could you not get pregnant again? Did you really only want one? A family member by marriage said I was not a real mother until I had at least two to deal with. People need to think before they speak. Story 66. I became a widow at 24. So many people have asked, how did he die? That is a horrible way to start a dental appointment in my experience. Story 67. Where are you from? California. No, where are your parents from? California. No, where are they from originally? Unknown. Story 68. Are you going to have more children? When are you planning to have them? Story 69. Are you tired? I get a consistent 9 hours of sleep per night. Story 70. What happened to you? I was asked that question constantly when I was a young wheelchair user. Now that I am in my 40s, I do not get it as often, but when I was in my 20s, every time I went out in public, strangers would stop me and ask this very intrusive question. Story 71. I am a retired teacher and now work as a substitute. I hate being asked, who are you today? I am my name. Thanks for asking. Story 72. What do your tattoos mean? It is a simple question, but so personal it is jarring. When I had only one, it was fine. But as the number grew and they became more personal, I no longer want to share the meaning behind them. Just say you like them and move on. Story 73. From an obvious drug addict or alcoholic, are you a drinker? Do you party? Story 74. They looked my husband and me up and down in judgment and asked, pointing to our 4 children, are they all his? As if young people's children must all have different fathers. For your information, yes, they are all his, and we have only been with each other during our 15 years together. Story 75. I wish people who know that I am bulimic would stop asking if I have eaten well. Story 76. When people ask what my salary is, I prefer not to discuss how much I earn per month. In my family, it is considered rude to ask someone about their pay, and I agree. Many people enjoy gossiping about salaries, so they ask everyone the same question all the time. I do not mind telling coworkers how much I earn each month, but I always lie to outsiders or try to avoid the question, and they rarely take the hint. Story 77. What do you pay for rent? People ask this all the time, and I find it so weird. Story 78. Do you work here when someone sees my name tag? Why do you work here? Why do you dress like that? Story 79. What are all those scars from? Are you taking your medication? For these questions, the meaning depends on the tone the person uses when asking. Story 80. People often ask when you are going to have kids or later in life how many children you have. Saying none usually provokes a strange reaction and exposes many assumptions. Story 81. The question any plans for the weekend annoys me because I prefer to spend the weekend in bed. And if I say that, it gets weird. Fuck off then. Story 82. Where do you live? I've primarily worked in retail and have gotten this question from complete strangers far too many times. Story 83. Someone asked whether my triplets were natural. The question was casually asking whether I had experienced painful infertility struggles. For the record, they are spontaneous, which is a far nicer way of putting it. Story 84. How are you doing? Mostly, when coworkers I see every day ask that, they mean, hey, are you working? I am working whenever I am here. Story 85. What are you? I suppose I'm racially ambiguous, so strangers are always trying to place me. I'm mostly black, but my Indian doctor, I swear, thinks I'm lying, laughing out loud. Story 86. When will you be having children? My wife was asked that question many times while we were trying for 3 years. Story 87. Begin an invitation with, I am hosting an event on date, and I would love for you to attend, rather than, what are you doing on date or time? Invite me to your event. Do not ask first if my calendar is clear, with the implication that, if it is, I am then required to attend. I do not answer those questions. I typically deflect by asking, why? What is going on that day? And then decide whether to attend. Story 88. On a Saturday night at a party, a close friend who knows full well that my husband is a restaurant chef asked, where is my husband? Story 89. I got this one a lot from my husband's family when we first started dating. What do your parents do for a living? Story 90. What would happen if you ate some of a food you are intolerant to while sitting at a table about to eat? Do you really want to know? Story 91. When I wear a knee brace, people ask what happened. I do not mind it when it comes from family, but I absolutely hate it when it comes from random strangers. Story 92. When are you due? I work in retail and have had 2 pregnancies while working there, so during those times I was constantly asked about my pregnancy. I thought that was fine because I was actually pregnant, but I would never ask someone that. Since my last baby, I have had health issues and now experience severe bloating. I am otherwise relatively slim, but my stomach swells like a balloon and I can look visibly pregnant. When this happens, people sometimes say, "You're pregnant again. When is this one due?" And I have to explain that I am not pregnant, just in a lot of pain. It is sad because I would like another child but cannot for medical reasons. Financial issues I can fix, but this I cannot, so it is the reason there will be no more babies. It is upsetting when people ask about being due. It is surprising how often people ask, when are you due? When they should not. Story 93. My husband of 16 years is white and I am black, and we are very often asked if we are together. We do not really engage in public displays of affection, except for holding hands and standing close to each other. We wear our rings every day, and to us it is clear we are together and know each other. But at the grocery store, checkout, at a restaurant, anywhere, it is not assumed that we are a couple. When we say, it's together or same bill, please, an expression of surprise appears on their faces. Even on a sidewalk, if we are not holding hands, people will walk right between us as if we are 2 different strangers instead of walking around us. Seems harmless. I thought I was paranoid for a while, and you think the clerks, waiters, or others are just doing their job and being polite. But after speaking with other mixed-race couples of different kinds, it seems to be a common encounter, especially if they have kids. People ask, are you the aunt, sitter, or assistant? I have never personally seen a black couple questioned if they are paying for groceries together, and I usually do not hear same-race couples asked if they want to split their check. I think we have many social biases about what is normal. But by 2025, with so much diversity, I would hope interracial marriage would not be unusual. Story 94. It is surprising how often people treat your personal life as an open book for casual curiosity. Questions about relationships, children, or sexual matters are deeply personal and not appropriate for small talk. This behavior shows a lack of awareness about basic boundaries. Story 95. So are you working now? Or are you still doing nothing? This refers to me and my 4 children whom I am raising. Story 96. How much do you earn? How much do you pay on your mortgage? Do you want to meet up for a drink? No, sorry, I already have plans. Oh, what plans do you have? Really? Story 97. What are you doing here? I'm in a public place. I'm doing the same as you. People seem surprised that I'm going out. Story 98. When are you planning to have children? I am infertile, but even if I was not, it is none of your business. Story 99. Why do you walk weird? I am pigeon-toed and my feet point inward. I have been bullied about it my whole life. People think it is okay to ask why I walk that way and then proceed to try it themselves. I also have Tourette's syndrome, When people ask why I keep making noises, I explain my condition and they always follow with the same question. Why do you not shout curse words? I do not have such a severe case. I am shaking my head. Story 100. Are you pregnant? No. But thanks for telling me I look pregnant. Now I won't be able to feel great in my outfit anymore. Even though I liked it. You are a bad person. Story 101. Someone said to me, you will never believe this, but I used to weigh XXX pounds. I weigh more than XXX pounds. Story 102. As a woman, I do not like when the first question men ask is whether I am married or have a boyfriend. Story 103. I have 2 daughters. I am constantly asked, when are you going to try for a boy? I usually reply, why? What is wrong with my daughters? Story 104. Are you sad? You shouldn't be. It bothers me when they do that. Story 105. Do you plan to have children? And if so, when? Story 106. My personal least favorite is, why are you so skinny? How did you get like that? As if I am going to give a cutesy answer. I have autoimmune issues, recovered from an eating disorder, and am simply genetically skinny. Pick one. Being thin does not make commenting on someone's body polite. Story 107. I have 2 daughters. Many people ask, when are you trying for a boy? Story 108. Almost anything people have the audacity to ask pregnant women. Story 109. Are you pregnant? No, I am just a fat white dude. Stop asking me. Story 110. Why don't you have children? I had a hysterectomy at 28, and at the time I was devastated. We spoke about adoption and other options and then decided not to. My husband said to me just after my surgery, look, I married you, all of you, because I love you. I didn't decide to marry your uterus. It doesn't matter to me that you don't have one, and just look at what we will save on tampons. We religiously put away each month what I would have spent. 2 years ago, we had a wonderful time touring China and cruising up the Yangtze River. A really disgusting thing happened, though, a few months after my operation. We were working in the Middle East and my husband was assigned a driver. He invited us and Derek's boss and his wife for dinner. They did not show, but I was allowed to eat with the men, as the driver decided I would now be part of the Al-Nazi family. The Saudis are obsessed with having children, so he asked why we had none. My husband said he was sterile to avoid the drama. In all seriousness, the man, after much wailing, said, we can make this right. Give her to me for a week and I'll send her back pregnant. Gross. Story 111. Why are you single? How much is your rent? How much do you make a year? Story 112. How old are you? I look so insanely young, and I am tired of being asked. Story 113. I walk with a cane and wear a back and hip brace. I have to love people pointing at me and asking, what is wrong with you? My chronic health problems are none of your business. Even better is when I hear, you are too young for that. Could you tell my body that? It did not seem to get the memo. Story 114. Are you pregnant yet? I get this all the fucking time from older people. I just got married earlier this year. We are not planning to have kids anytime soon, but also, fuck off. That is none of your business. Story 115. Where are you from? I am a Hispanic American who was raised by Hispanic Americans. My first instinct is to say my home state because I have a slight Bostonian accent, but people often look at me as if I do not understand. No, I do not go around thinking I am different from everyone around me because of my skin tone. I have no issue with being asked about my ethnicity or where my ancestors are from. It is a fun question, but for God's sake, ask the question correctly. Story 116. Why are you in a wheelchair? Also, mothers, answer your children's questions yourself. Do not send them to ask the person in a wheelchair. Story 117. Why are you not dating? I have personal issues, and no one is ready to hear about them. Story 118. How tall are you? Just because someone is tall doesn't mean you can make that a conversation starter. I've always wanted to reply, 6'7". How much do you weigh? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.